Welcome back to Our Money. Today, we're embarking on an interesting exploration, delving into the short yet significant history of the $2 Federal Reserve Bank notes. The landmark Federal Reserve Act was signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson on the 23rd of December, 1913. This act set into motion the establishment of a system consisting of 12 regional Federal Reserve banks. The system was divided into 12 districts, each anchored by a primary branch located in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Richmond, Atlanta, Chicago, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Dallas, and San Francisco. Each bank was governed by a board of directors and operated within its demarcated district boundaries. Collectively, these banks were entrusted with managing the country's money supply, issuing loans, performing bank oversight, and functioning as the lender of last resort. Moreover, the Federal Reserve Act gave birth to the Federal Reserve Bank notes. It was aimed at forging a unified monetary system and ensuring financial stability across the country. The act was also instrumental in offering various financial services to the economy, including check clearing and collection for all Federal Reserve members. In 1915, the inaugural batch of large-size Federal Reserve Bank notes was issued, available in denominations of $5, $10, and $20. Additional denominations of $1, $2, and $50 were introduced in 1918 to offset the temporary absence of silver certificates from circulation as a consequence of the Pittman Act. The sole series of large-size $2 Federal Reserve Bank notes was rolled out in 1918, graced with a portrait of founding father and third president of the U.S., Thomas Jefferson, on its left side. Interestingly, these notes were printed on pure cotton paper, instead of a combination of cotton and linen, a deviation attributed to a linen shortage during World War I, which rendered these notes more fragile. In a significant milestone, the serial numbers on these notes also identified the issuing Federal Reserve Bank, with each serial number prefaced with the letter corresponding to the issuing bank. The Federal Reserve Bank at Boston is identified by an A, New York with a B, Philadelphia with C, Cleveland with a D, Richmond with an E, Atlanta with an F, Chicago with a G, St. Louis with an H, Minneapolis with an I, Kansas City with a J, Dallas with a K, and finalizes with San Francisco identified by an L. Also, the Treasury continued the Star Note system established in 1910. This initiative replaced misprinted or error notes, thus preserving the sequence of the serial numbers. Prior to this, when printing mistakes were identified, the flawed notes would be discarded, disrupting the sequential order of the serial numbers. To address this, the Treasury started replacing these error notes with new ones that had a serial number starting or ending with a star. Embedded in each corner of these notes was a unique combination of a letter and number that also denoted the issuing bank. For instance, the combination A1 signified a note issued by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, the 1st District, and a note with an L12 would correspond to the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, the 12th District. These notes were topped with the identification as national currency and carried a reassurance of their validity that read, secured by United States certificates of indebtedness or United States one-year gold notes deposited with the Treasurer of the United States of America. The first issue bore the signatures of Register Houston Teehee and Treasurer John Burke, and the second issue had Register William Elliott with Treasurer Burke as signers. These notes also bore the signatures of the cashier and governor of the issuing bank. As a result, an impressive variety of 34 signature combinations was produced, excluding Star Note issues, which contributed an additional 22 signature combinations, leading to a total of 56 distinct notes distributed between all 12 Federal Reserve banks. You'll find the series identification strategically placed at both the lower right corner and the upper left corner of the note. Notably, just beneath the Treasury seal, 18th of May, 1914 is printed, which is the date of incorporation of all Federal Reserve banks except San Francisco, which was incorporated on May 20, 1914. Adjacent to the right of the note, you can find the text of the bill's congressional authorization, stating, authorized by the acts of December 23, 1913, and April 23, 1918. In the heart of the note, its primary obligation is clearly stated. For instance, you might read, the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, California, will pay to the bearer, on demand, $2. Lastly, the bottom edge of the note clearly identifies its type as a Federal Reserve Bank note. On flipping the note, one would find a striking depiction of the battleship USS New York at sea. The note's lower border displayed its denomination and the legal tender status, which read, "This note is receivable at par in all parts of the United States in payment of all taxes and excises and all other dues to the United States, except duties on imports, and also for all salaries and other debts and demands owing by the United States to individuals, corporations, and associations within the United States, except interest on public debt." On the upper border, the note is once again identified as national currency and Federal Reserve Bank note. Despite the fleeting existence of Federal Reserve Bank notes, their counterparts, Federal Reserve notes, continue to be issued today. It's crucial to distinguish between the two, as they are separate types of currency, both introduced around the same time. Federal Reserve Bank notes were individual bank initiatives, whereas Federal Reserve notes are system-wide issuances by the Federal Reserve. At the culmination of the $2 Federal Reserve Bank notes issuance in 1922, the Treasury had printed and placed in circulation more than $136 million worth of this denomination. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of the $2 Federal Reserve Bank note. And remember, stay curious.